All right, we're going to go ahead and hit that record button so that we can send out a recording of this presentation to everyone uh, who wasn't able to make it for the live session. But if you are here for the live session, that's awesome. We will be opening up the mic for questions at the end of today's presentation. So if you have questions throughout, just write those down. We'll open it up at the end, and then we will get to everyone's questions. Sarah and I will hang on afterwards to talk with as many people as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen, and we will go ahead and get started because there's a bunch of information that we are going to go through today. So if you're here, hopefully you know that this is the 2025-2026 Travel Team Information Session with All-American Model United Nations. We have a very packed agenda today where we're going to be walking through a lot of the history, the mission, the teaching values of All-American Model UN, and then we will get into the actual components of how the travel team operates, what it takes to apply and be accepted for the All-American Model UN travel team. We'll be going through all of the different conferences that we're going to be going to next year, how to enroll for those, and then, of course, we'll be going over all of our safety and security protocols, tuition payments and options, and then we will open the floor up for any questions for anybody that would like to ask them. So my name is Frank Pavlikevich. I'm the founder and the executive director of All American Model UN. I started this organization in 2011, and we really just started out as a single international travel team. I'll get a little bit into the history in just a few slides. But Model UN has been my main focus for now almost 20 years. I've been to over 150 conferences on 4 different continents. I really, really know this space intricately, and I'm really excited to be working with each of our students every year. Sarah, who is also here, and God bless her, it's about 3 a.m. where she is in her part of the world. Sarah, like me, we're both very avid international travelers. So Sarah is in the Caucasus in Armenia right now. So it's about 3 a.m. for her. So wanted to definitely give her a shout out. Sarah just graduated from Vanderbilt University, where she helped to lead the Model United Nations International Affairs Organization there. She's been coaching with us for 3, I think almost 4 years at this point. She's an awesome asset for our team and for all of our students. And then we have 2 associate program directors this year. Oscar, who is a 3rd year at American University, which hosts the #1 ranked college Model UN team on the planet right now. And then Jennifer, who's also an alumna and is currently studying at the University of Virginia and is currently serving as the Director General of UVA's college conference in just her freshman year. So some really talented coaches on our staff and wanted to give them the proper shout out so that everyone knows who will be working with you guys all next year. So like I said, I started All American Model UN in 2011 after I finished a couple of undergraduate degrees at Boston University. I was actually involved with starting what was then the world's largest Model UN conference that was hosted in Beijing, China. Over 4,000 students from 40 different countries were in attendance at this conference, and they reached out to me after I graduated and said, you know, we have students from all over the world, but we can't get US students to come to our conference. And that's where All American Model UN was born. It was born out of that first delegation, that first set of 12 students that we took over to Beijing and had an incredible 2-week adventure in China. Very slowly, All American started getting invited to other conferences in South Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East, and Latin America. And for the first 4 or 5 years, the majority of what we did was just international conferences. But our mission is really to validate the student experience and add legitimacy to Model United Nations as an activity. Some of you may be very familiar with how Model UN operates, but unlike Forensics League, Robotics League, different forms of debate, Model UN is not centralized. So without a centralized governing authority, it sometimes lacks a lot of the validation that it should be getting in terms of recognition from school districts, college admissions, and so on. So that's really what we're here to do, is to build skills with students through Model United Nations, and then better position them for future successes. Throughout all of our programs, though, we always rely on these 4 key success variables, because even though Model UN is our passion and our calling, we see Model UN as a vehicle to engage students in a deeper understanding of international relations and as a way to propel them for future success. So these four key success variables are not only incredibly relevant to the activity at hand, but they're transferable all throughout high school, college, and then your early career. So we always teach to preparation and research. We're a very research heavy organization. We teach pattern recognition so that students know what to expect and how they can maneuver so that they're ahead of the other students that they're competing against. We are strong proponents of advocacy, so being able to explain your ideas and advocate for them is obviously a central premise of Model United Nations. And then emotional intelligence. How do you read a room? How do you get yourself back up after suffering a defeat? How do you show that resilience? All of those aspects are really important in the activity, and then obviously throughout your high school and collegiate careers are as important as. So I want to just point out and explain a little bit more about our community because it's something that we put a lot of effort and attention on. I think the community is what really creates the stickiness within All-American Model UN. And even though you see a lot of different stats up on your screen right now, I want to highlight just a couple of them. The first one I want to highlight is that over 65% of our students will do multiple programs with us. And I always like to brag about that stat because it shows the level of confidence that the families that we work with have in our program, in our staff, in our outcomes. I know a lot of you are probably here because you're interested in how does this relate to college admissions, and then what's the correlation. So over 35% of our students do go on to attend an Ivy League university, Stanford, the University of Chicago, or Georgetown. That's what we sort of define as our Ivy League plus schools. But over 85% of our students attend top 30 universities. And while I would love to have a magic wand and be able to grant people acceptance into all of these schools myself, I really point this out just to show that this is the caliber of community that you're joining if you decide to enroll in the All-American Model UN travel team. We really try to push each other. We try to support each other, and not just Model UN, but everything that we get involved with throughout your high school careers. And then a couple of other little things to point out here. I always get asked about what's the split between public and private schools. It's about 50-50, and the same goes with our girl-boy ratio. It's about 50-50, though I am sort of proud to point out over the past couple of years, it has shifted more from a male-dominated activity to about a 50-50. And now I think the girls on our team actually make up a majority of our community, which is something the coaches and I put a lot of attention on to making sure that we're creating a safe and equitable environment for all of our students. I had to put this up here just to shout out some of our senior successes. We graduated 31 students this year. It's the biggest graduating class that All-American has ever had. Didn't have enough room on the screen to put all of them, but here are the first couple ones that we created shout outs for. We're going to be mentioning all of them on Instagram over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to get a little bit of a personal connection with the types of students that we work with, this is a great page. I always love putting this page together at the end of every year because the success that our students have is really a testament to our community, to their effort, and then obviously to their results as well. What's sort of even more important, and in my head, I'm such a data file. I love doing numeric analysis. I've been doing this, like I said, since 2011. So it's been some time, and we've been able to now track our students past college and into their early careers. And this is a question that comes up a lot, especially from a parent's perspective, is where do students who do Model UN in high school end up after college? And there's not a ton of data available out there, but we can speak from our community. About 30% of our students, a little bit under 30%, end up going into government and policy, which sometimes you'd think would be a higher percentage. But a lot of other students will find their calling in law, in health and medicine, in business and finance, or in the nonprofit sector. But the common thread between all of the success is what they point out to is a validation in high school and the skills that they're able to develop by participating and competing in Model UN conferences. one of the one of our objectives for next year is to lean more on our alumni, especially those that are into their early careers, and bring them back to be mentors, coaches, and speakers for our students next year. So we're going to be doing a lot more with our alumni, which I'm really excited about. And again, is another proof point for the type of relationships that we build with all of our students over the years. But let's talk about what the travel team is, how we become the #1 travel team in the country over the past 15 years, and some of the elements of how we've been able to achieve this. So let's first by having a broad discussion about what the benefits of Model UN conferences are. I know most of you are probably very familiar with the activity, especially if you're a student, but I always like to give a broad overview for parents or for people that may not be as closely related to the activity. So Model UN is a negotiated role play activity where students are assigned a country or a historic figure to represent, and then they have to reach consensus around a solution for a complicated international issue. So unlike other forms of debate, which are zero sum, you guys are probably familiar with a pro-con or Lincoln Douglas style debate where there's a winner and there's a loser. Model UN is about building consensus, so it much more mirrors what reality is when you're in the workforce or in college, where you need to find the common ground and create a solution with a group of teammates. I like to break Model UN down into 3 different categories: the experiential side of things in terms of the negotiated role play, but then into skill development, which I then break down into hard skill development and what I'll call life skill development. Model UN is one of the only activities that I can possibly think of where high school students will not look at their phones for 8 hours straight because they are so ingrained in the activity that they do. And I like to point this out because Model UN has a motivating factor that allows students to achieve different levels of success and validation that they may not achieve in school and in a traditional environment. That's why this experiential education is so critically important for them. Our travel team really does try to accomplish a lot in our experience. So obviously we're looking to do that skill building with all of our students, but it's also about building a community, gaining professional exposure, learning out how to travel and navigate an airport or a train station. You know, these are life skills that a lot of students won't even come in contact with until they reach college, but we propel and are able to expedite that transition by being a member of this travel team. And then obviously we want to build a relationship with each of our students. We keep all of our class sizes and conference sizes down so that every student is guaranteed individual attention. When students join the All-American Model UN travel team, a lot of them join with the expectation of going to a conference, and I'm going to discuss all the different conferences we have in just a minute. We have a pretty packed roster for the next school year, but I do want to go over what the expectations are for when students enroll in conferences with us. So in addition to the cohort meetings, we have additional training meetings for the conferences. We work under the assumption that students are prepared and ready to go for each of these training sessions. We're expecting students to be on camera, to be fully engaged with the activities, regardless of their level of experience. So whether you're a freshman or a senior, we're expecting the same amount of effort to be put in. And then we also understand that the life is happening and this is not your only obligation. So if you can't miss a meeting, if you're going to miss a deadline, that's perfectly fine. But the expectation is that you need to be able to clearly communicate that with the coaching staff. Now, I do want to discuss about awards really quickly, and I'll get into this a little bit more later on in the presentation. But Model UN is an activity that does give out awards. The awards are subjective. It is not like an event like DECA or FBLA where there is a checklist, and if you hit all the points, you're going to move on. It is a very, very subjective activity, which means sometimes you're not going to win an award when you're convinced that you are. But that experience is as valuable as walking away with a certificate or a recognition, because that self-awareness and resiliency that you're able to build through this activity in my opinion, is unmatched with anything else that you can do in high school. The big thing here is that the travel team has had really an unparalleled level of success over the past 15 years. And we expect everyone to give their all when they're on a conference team, because they're not just representing themselves, they're representing their school, their state, and when we travel internationally, they're representing the country as well. This legacy of success is something that I'm tremendously proud of. You can sort of see how we started out as purely an international delegation from 2012 to 2016, before starting to attend more of the US and Canadian conferences. This year, we had an incredibly successful year, winning delegation awards at Washington University St. Louis, at Yale's conference in Seoul, South Korea, at the American College of Greece, FIU down in Miami, and then Oxford Model UN ran a conference in Toronto that we were able to bring a small team to. But you can see this legacy and tradition of winning delegation awards. This is the highest testament to the way that we practice Model UN. In a lot of school programs, students are left on their own to prepare for conferences without any guidance, without having to work as a team. We stress the team dynamic more than anything else. We see this as the ultimate prize that we're chasing. When students are able to support each other, give each other feedback, coach each other, inspire each other, that's what makes this organization and this community so special. So let's talk a little bit about the travel team cohort. You've probably heard me mention this phrase a couple of times now. Coming out of COVID, we sort of made a strategic change to the way that we work with each of our students. And I think it's really had incredible results since then. So before COVID, when students applied for the All-American Model UN travel team, we wouldn't have a chance to work with them to build their skill set up until they decided to enroll on a conference with us. And like I said, because we were so internationally focused at the beginning, it was a little bit hard for a 16-year-old to go to their mom and dad and say, hey, I'd like to go to Budapest, to Beijing, to Bogota, to Panama City with this person you've never heard of before, right? I totally get that. I 100% understand it. And that's one of the big benefits of moving to the cohort system that we made after COVID. So now we operate a school year program where we get to meet with each of our students every other week throughout the academic year from September until May. We get to do a lot of skill building with them. We get to give them individualized feedback. And then we're even more excited to add new features to the way that the cohort operates based off of the feedback that we've gotten. So in addition to the bi-weekly sessions throughout the school year, we're also going to be doing some longer form monthly skill labs where we're hoping to develop speaking skills, writing skills, researching skills in a more in-depth manner. These are the fundamental skills. So particularly if you are new to the cohort or new to All-American Model UN, this is really the fundamental education that you'll be able to use in conferences with us, with your school team, on your own. We're also going to be introducing a speaker series. So we have some expert speakers lined up already for next year, including current active diplomats in the world, admissions officers, university professors, and then some of those very notable alumni that I discussed already. We're also going to be doing semester check-ins with each student, where each student will meet with the program directors, myself. Parents are more than welcome to attend these sessions as well, and we'll be able to give an honest and critical reporting of what we think student opportunities are for them to improve. So again, the emphasis has to be on personalization, because that's really how we've developed these students over the past decade and a half. The tuition for the travel team cohort for next year is going to be $440, so a little bit less than $50 a month from September until May. You have to be a member of the cohort to enroll in conferences. You can't just enroll in a conference. Again, this is about building relationships and seeing progress and skill development, so that has to take place over time. And then next year's cohort is going to be limited to 80 students only. This year, we had a pretty massive growth in the number of students. I think the first year we did the cohort, we had 36 students in our cohort. Last year, we had 72 students. Rather than trying to double again, which I think creates an unmanageable environment, we're going to limit it to the first 80 students who register. And I'll talk about what those steps are in just a moment. But again, we have a commitment to quality and to individual attention, which is why we're putting that hard cap on our cohort this year. The other big change that we're making this year is that we are moving away from the full and training acceptances. We think those designations have become antiquated, and we are moving to a JV and varsity system for our travel team. The JV and varsity system will train together throughout the year. Sometimes the JV team will practice independently. We're really going to push, if you're on the JV team, to go to those skill labs to brush up on your skills so that you can eventually make it onto the varsity team. And then we're going to be relying a lot on the varsity team members to help us lead some of the training sessions. We are going to be assigning some of our senior members to run some travel team member only training sessions, so without the professional staff there, because we really want to empower our senior members and those that have shown a track record of success to teach those skills to the next generation. Not only does it help the students on the JV squad, but it also helps the varsity team members, because one of the highest forms of education is to be able to teach the concepts yourself. I know the big question is going to be, how do I make it from JV to varsity? There is not going to be a clear-cut answer. There's not going to be a checklist. Instead, there's going to be a list of guiding questions that the coaches and I are going to go over. We'll probably review students for move up twice a semester. So we're looking for students that are reliable and actively engaged in all of our sessions, that have their camera on during virtual meetings and are fully participating. That communicate very consistently with us. We don't have to chase you down for assignments. We don't have to find out where you are in terms of your research and prep for conferences. And then obviously, we're also going to be looking for students who have won consistently at a high level across multiple conferences. So this isn't a tick list where it's like, okay, I've won one best delegate at one conference, therefore I should make the varsity team. It's going to be answering the question, do we feel that a student is ready to consistently perform at a high level at the most competitive conferences in this country? So that's going to be the big delineation between JV and varsity this year. So now on to the conferences, which I know a ton of our current students, it's probably the only reason you're on this call, is to find out early which conferences we're going to next year. We have 7 US conferences on our roster, which is the most we've ever gone to. So in the fall, we're going to be going to Vanderbilt conference in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to get out to the West Coast to Stanford's conference. And then our first varsity conference of the year will be at McGill in Montreal. In the spring, we have 4 on our roster right now. So that's Columbia's in New York, Georgetown, which again is going to be a varsity only conference, Emory in Atlanta, and then Duke and Raleigh-Durham. All of the dates and individual conference information will be sent to everybody who registered for this info session, or you can find it on a section of our website that I'm going to go over in just a couple of slides. The tuition for the US conferences are going to be $990 per conference. And then we have packages for students who want to attend multiple conferences. So if you work with us, we will be happy to work with you. Our goal is to get as many students to as many conferences as possible. For those of you that are new to All-American Model UN, how does this work? So when you sign up for a US conference, you're responsible for organizing the transportation to the conference location, but then we pick all of the students up either at the airport, bus, train terminals, at baggage claim. We bring them to the conference. They have total supervision from that point forward. So all the conference fees, the hours and hours, it's about 20 to 40 hours of training per conference that's included in those tuition rates. It includes all of the conference lodging. It includes the supervision and support, and then one delegation dinner for each of the US conferences. If you're interested in financial assistance, please contact me. More information about that will be provided a little bit later on. Each of these conferences, we chose each of these conferences for different reasons. Number one, they're the highest quality caliber conferences in the United States. 2, we like to rotate between conferences every year to give students different exposures. Some of these conferences like Vanderbilt and Stanford and Emory are held on campuses, which we think is critically important. And then I think there's also a value to some of these incredibly large conferences. So McGill's conference is over 2,500 students. Georgetown is over 3,000 students at these conference hotels. So it's a good mix. Columbia's is a crisis only conference, so only crisis committees at that one. Others are more traditional, like Emory, for example. So our hope is that regardless of where you are in the country, some of these will work out well for your schedule. They'll work out well geographically, and you'll be able to figure out what is the best the best fit for you. But then again, the international conferences and opportunities are really an incredible point of value that All American offers. Students do travel independently to most of the international conferences. Sometimes we are able to arrange a coach to fly from certain airports. So if parents feel more comfortable with students flying with a chaperone, sometimes, not always, we can help to accommodate that. The team sizes will vary from 10 to 24 students, same with the US conferences. You have 24-hour support anytime you need us in country. And we've led students to countries all over Latin America, East Asia, South Asia, East and Western Europe, and the Middle East. The international conferences are much more all-encompassing. So they will include all of the meals, all of the touring, all of the museum visits, all of the gratuities, all of the insurance. So we try to make it as catch-all as possible to make everything as easy as possible for each of the families that are signing up for these international conferences. So now, what are the international conferences we're going to? Next year, we're really, bad typo there. So this is for the 25-26 season. We'll be going to Oxford in November. That's going to be our Thanksgiving conference. That's going to take place from November 26th until December 1st. We will start off by doing 2 to 3 days of touring in London before catching the train out to Oxford for their 3-day conference and then flying back. Really excited about that. London is very accessible from the United States, so flight should be easy, no need to transfer anywhere. So this will be the first year we bring students to this conference, but it's been a world-renowned conference for about 20 some odd years. In the spring, we'll be going back to Yale Model UN Europe. They haven't yet disclosed where their location has been, but they've held this conference in Lisbon, in Budapest, in Brussels, and then this past year in Geneva. So they pick a new cool location in Europe each year. And then for next summer, we'll be going to a conference that the UN is actually organizing for youth, held in Singapore. So that's obviously going to be a big conference, a lot more information about that conference and all of the international conferences to come. But we're really excited about our international docket for next year. All incredibly great conferences with really high caliber partners. If you need any of this information, though, this is a really important part of the website. If you go to allamericanmun.com/pods, you'll find one-page downloads, which have all of the information that you need for each of these conferences. So POD stands for Program Overview Document. You can download this if you want a single piece of paper that you want to put up on your fridge or on your calendar. It includes the name, location, phone number of all of the hotels. It includes itineraries. It includes travel instructions for what airports you should be going to, flying into, and then what the time requirements for pickups and drop-offs are. So it's a great single-page download to get all of the logistical information that you need. So you'll always be able to find those on the website, allamericanmun.com/pods. We will update that site within the next couple of days with all of the conferences for next year. I always like to highlight our legacy of safety and security with All American Model UN. Like I said, I've been doing this since 2011. We've never had a serious safety or security issue. And a lot of that is because of all of the different protocols that we have in place. In fact, there's actually a section of the website now, if you want to see all of the different protocols that we've established over the years, allamericanmun.com/safety. And you'll see every different security protocol that we follow. But here's just a general list of some of our top policies that we're able to follow. The 857 phone number that you've probably seen on the website, in the emails, that turns into a 24/7 contact line, and it contacts all of the members of professional staff on these international conferences. So if you have a quick question, you can always text it. It will go to all of our phones. If you need us for any reason, 24 hours a day, feel free to give us a call. and we will be there to pick up. So to go over all of the tuition and pricing for this year, we've already discussed the U.S. conferences. The international programs are $2,400 per single international program. And like I said, that involves a lot more than just the 3 or 4 day Model UN conference. We do cooking lessons, we do language lessons, we do museum visits, we do cultural visits. So it's really an opportunity to use Model UN to open up the world, discover new cultures, see sites that maybe you only have a chance to see once in a lifetime. But the question I always get asked is, okay, so what do you recommend for my son or daughter? What's the best option? Because obviously we have way too many things, right? We have 7 U.S. conferences, we have 3 international conferences. That's 10. No one's doing 10 conferences a year with us. I mean, like students, I know you want to. No one is doing 10 conferences a year with us. You have schoolwork, you have lives, you have other commitments. So here are my 2 recommended packages. The first is 3 U.S. conferences and 1 international conference. And then the second one is to do 4 U.S. conferences and 2 international, which is a pretty big commitment. We offer these highly reduced package rates, which you can enroll for right during the enrollment process. You don't have to do multiple clicks. And then you don't also have to decide on which conferences you want to do off the bat. But these packages will be available until September. And then after September, they will just go back to single sign-up rates for each of the individual conferences. In terms of financial assistance, we do have some need-based financial aid that's available. You can apply for that via the website. But the most popular form that we can help out with is monthly installment plans. So taking whatever package you decide and then splitting it up over 10, sometimes even up to 12 months is something that really helps families out. We don't charge any fees or any interest with that. So it's just about making things more predictable and affordable in ways that that both of us can work together. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Again, I'm willing to work with as many families as possible to get students to conferences next year. So what do you actually have to do to finalize your enrollment? Number 1, you have to apply and be accepted to the All-American Model UN travel team. So if you've gotten an acceptance already, you do not have to apply again. So once you apply and get accepted, that acceptance is good until you start college. If you're on this call and you haven't applied already, you can do that online at allamericanmun.com/apply. It's about a 15-20 minute application, and we will get back to you within 5 to 10 business days. Once you receive your acceptance, you'll schedule a call with me. And even if you have been accepted already, each of our returning students, you're going to get an email from me this week to set up a one-on-one with you and your parents, who are very much encouraged to attend. We'll review your progress from this year. We'll talk about recommendations for next year. We'll talk about different conferences that may be right for you. So those one-on-one calls are really, really important. Returning students, you'll get an email with instructions this week with that. Once you do that, you'll submit your headshot and your bio for the website, and then we will send you some graphics and press releases. So if you want to share it with your community, with your high school paper, with your local newspaper, we will set you up with a bunch of collateral that will be helpful there. The next step is to enroll in the cohort, and then finally to choose which conferences you'd like to attend. The fall deadline for conferences is September 20th, so there's no immediate rush there. The one thing I will say is conferences will fill up on a first come, first served basis. So once we hit the upper limit for each of these conferences, we will not be extending additional seats. And I know this can cause some frustration, but it is the fairest way for us to do that. So if you're interested in any of those conferences, I'd really recommend you saving your seats now. What normally happens is that we run a number of summer academies from June until August. We accept another 40 to 60 students into the cohort over the summer, and then we'll hold this info session again in at the end of August to onboard those students. So if you're in this meeting now, you're seeing all this information, you're sort of ahead of the curve. So if there are conferences that you're particularly interested in attending, now's your chance to jump on those seats. The one conference that is a little bit different, and again, instructions for enrolling for this conference will be coming out, is Georgetown's Naaman Conference. If you are interested in signing up for our naming team that competes at Georgetown's national championship conference, you are going to be required to go to 2 additional conferences in addition to that Georgetown conference, and we will not be making any exceptions from that. So if you're interested in going to Georgetown, you must enroll in 3 conferences with us. And like I said, we had 10 different options this year to choose from. So that's the only conference you cannot register for just 1 seat. Every other conference you can register for an individual if you'd like. This is an important glossary here. So if you're never sure on where to go, I will be sending a slide deck of this presentation out to everyone. Use this as a glossary to figure out where to go on the website. I know it can be a little bit intimidating and confusing about where exactly to go to do different things, but these are probably the 10 most important pages on the website. So use this as a resource for you. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to email Sarah or I, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you have and get you to the right spot. So that was a ton of information, I know. I am going to take that off the screen. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to use the chat. I will answer them as best I can, or if you'd like to come off mute and ask a question, you're also more than welcome to do that. No questions. I'm shocked. Okay.
Excuse
Sarah,
me, I have a question.
There we go.
So I was wondering, when you're selecting the conferences to attend, I'm looking at Vanderbilt and Stanford, and I just checked the dates, and they're pretty close together timing wise. Do you recommend that students space out? Can my son participate in both Vanderbilt and Stanford, or is that too much too quickly?
Yeah, great question. So for the fall teams, there'll just be 1 training session for all the 4 fall conferences, with the exception of the McGill conference, because that varsity team will train independently for that. But the 3 or 4 other fall conferences will all practice together. So it's not like every conference is another hour of work that they're going to have to do. So it's really a matter of scheduling on the student and the family's behalf. So if you can do a quick 2-3 week turn, you think that's feasible for your son, that's fine by us.
Okay, great.
And both of those conferences are very different experiences. So I don't think there wouldn't be a level of fatigue that I'd be worried about with some of the other ones.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
So I've done Model UN since middle school and I've done it in high school. However, with just change of school this year, in my junior year, I did miss it. So I don't want to say I didn't lose my skills. I'm still keeping up with stuff, but I'm definitely not I wasn't as active this year as I have been past years, but I'm still very interested. And of course, I want to like re-improve my skills. Is that seen necessarily as a downside? Or could you view that as a downside, or is that just another opportunity to grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. The one thing I'll say is that we never hold student circumstances against the student, right? So if we know that a student goes to a very competitive, well-established Model UN school, we're expecting them to perform higher than maybe a student that's homeschooled or that doesn't have that sort of support. So when you apply for the team, if you just explain in your application, like, I moved, I had to take a year off, I had a medical emergency, we're never going to hold that against the student. That being said, if you were interested in hyping up your skills in anticipation of the next year, we have a travel team only training academy in Washington, D.C. That's probably your best opportunity to do that. But we also offer other ones in D.C. and Boston if there were particular skills that you're interested in. But then that's one of the benefits of the school year program, the cohort model, is that we get to work with students long before you get to a conference. So we'll be able to get you up to where we think you need to be, regardless. So I always say that there's an option for everyone who comes into the All-American community, and we will find the right path for you.
Thank you. Do you think you could share the information about that DC training by any chance?
Absolutely. Sarah, why don't you put into the chat the links for the four different academies that we're running, and then specifically highlight the Travel Team Academy.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And that's another question that we actually had in the chat. Are summer academies still open for registration? They all are. The DC academies have limited seats available. The Boston academies have more seats available, as does the Miami Academy. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go ahead and shoot us an email, or Sarah is going to put into the chat all of the information and websites for those different academies.
Hi. So, I go to school. I'm from the Glen Island, Richmond area, and
Okay.
I've been involved with Model UN for. I'm a freshman in high school, so I've been involved in Model UN for the past few years. And I was wondering, are there any like specific regulations regarding with students that are like younger or?
So everyone that is in the cohort must be entering ninth grade next year. So what year in school are you right now?
Hey, sorry, I'm in my freshman year right now.
Okay, so yeah, you're right in our age bracket. So you'd be more than eligible to apply for the travel team or to do any of the summer academies.
I was
I
just
Oh, go ahead, Ariana.
I was just wondering for the people who are going to do fall conferences, I just wanted to make sure it wouldn't conflict with anything else in my schedule. So do you know what time the practices will be and what day of the week?
The practices I don't know yet. We likely won't release those until September, because what we'll do is we'll poll everyone who's in the cohort. We'll do it once at the end of this school year and then once at the start of the next school year. We can't always accommodate everyone, but I don't want to say something and then have to walk it back. I will say, Sarah, what time were the travel team trainings held this year? They were 8 or 9 o'clock on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, so in the fall they were at 8 p.m. Eastern, and in the spring I want to say 7 p.m. Eastern.
And then again, if you can't make the training sessions, the travel cohort may be so big, we may do multiple during the week. We may have makeup assignments. So we'll definitely have a way to get you up to speed.
Thank you.
And then I had a question that was DM'd to me from Asa. So if you are a returning student, you've already had an acceptance. Yes, you can enroll for conferences in cohort right now. That part of the website is currently live. I'll go ahead and throw that into the chat too.
Thank you, Frank. I have another question.
Sure.
So the Yale Mon Europe interested me.
Mhm.
Although you said they're not sure about the location. I know that it's early for a conference of what would be probably what, March of next year,
Yep.
right? Do you know like when they would release it? Because obviously if they change location, plane tickets might.
Yeah, so Yale normally releases their spring international location in September when they get back to campus. And I can all but guarantee that the dates are going to be March 11th to the 16th, because it always falls over their spring recess.
Okay, great. Thank
Jack just asked a great question to me, saying if we were accepted this year, do we need to apply again? No, if you have an acceptance, you don't need to apply again. You can just sign up. We will be sending out emails this week, Sarah and I, that will disclose whether you're on the varsity squad or the JV squad. And we will also have a rationale as to why we reached that decision. Just scrolling through some questions. All right, John, that's a great question. So John just sent me a private message and said, if our school is going to a conference that All American is going to, who should I compete with? Our preference, All American's preference, is always that you compete with your school team. As much as we love you guys and we would like to have you on our team, we understand that you guys are leaders in your school organizations. So we'd much rather have you take that leadership role with your school team and coach your school students. There's plenty of other opportunities to travel with us. Thank you, Sarah, for dropping all that information about the academies into the chat. All right, if anybody else wants to come off mic, feel free, or you can just send that question via chat. Happy to answer both.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm a school, the MUN director here in Asia, Bangkok. So I wanted to ask if, let's say, we want to be a team, to be part of the team, what exactly does it entail for us? We are high school students.
Sure. So the majority of our students are in the States, even though we've had students apply from internationally. So the first step is to apply and gain an acceptance into the team. But there are other ways that we can help to support your school. We have a bunch of free training that's available on the website. I think not to go through like all of that, why don't you email me, Sarah, if you can private message her with my email address, and then we'll see how I can help. You know, maybe there's some chance for us to bring students to Thailand, or for your students to come to the US. I can show what different options that we have.
Thank you.
All right, I had another question that was just DM'd to me saying, I received an email saying that I got a varsity acceptance. Does that mean that I'm on the varsity team? Yeah, so if you've applied to the All-American Travel Team within the past month or so, we have been just sending out varsity or JV acceptances. So if you did get an email saying that you got a varsity acceptance, that is going to dictate which team that you're on. The JV varsity acceptances, Trisha, are going to come out this week. So you'll get an email this week from Sarah and I. Can an incoming 8th grader apply for the travel team? So if you have a student that's younger than in high school, they can apply for the travel team. I'm not sure they would have the experience that we typically look for. We take these instances on a case-by-case basis, so they may be able to train with us through the school year, but they wouldn't be able to travel to conferences with us until the following year, once they're in their 9th grade year. But Wendy, if you want to send me an email, happy to discuss any particulars with you.
Hi.
Okay. Oh, what do we
Sorry.
got?
I was just curious on the application process and how long the deciding email takes to get back to us.
So I know we have a little bit of a backlog right now in applications that we need to review. You'll get a notice within the next 2 weeks if you have already applied.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've been getting this presentation ready and choosing our conferences, so we're just a little bit behind on processing applications. But if you got that confirmation email saying that the application was received, we'll get back to you within the next week or so.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
All right, have another great question. Can you go over how to apply for the travel team? And then as a student attending the summer academies, should I apply before or after the academies? Really, really great questions. So to apply for the travel team, you'll just do that online at allamericanmun.com/apply. And I'll type that into the chat so everyone knows where it is. So it's a simple online application. There's no interviews, there's no long essays, there's a couple of short answers. If you were attending the summer academies, you can apply before, and then we may review your application again after the summer academies. So for students who don't get a chance to go to some of the more competitive conferences in the US, and those are the conferences that we're looking for in terms of experience, they can substitute that by completing 1 or 2 weeks of our summer academies, which is our training that we offer in Washington, D.C., in Boston, and in Miami this year. And if you successfully complete those weeks, you can use that as a supplement, and we'll take that into consideration when evaluating your application. I know it's sort of like really trendy to talk about we only accept 15% of our students, 30% of our students, 50% of our students. My job is to accept as many students as possible. It's not to limit the opportunities for students. It's just to make sure that students are ready for the elevated level of competition that they're going to face at these big national conferences. So if you put in the commitment, the time to improve your skill set, and you demonstrate that to the coaches and I, we will get you onto the team so that you can go to these conferences. That's our real objective with All American.
Hi, I have one more quick question, if that's
Sure
okay.
thing.
So I was just looking at the summer academy list that Sarah sent in the chat. Thank you for that. Obviously, you may not have the answer to this, and you also may ask me to like just think about it on my own terms. But from what I've told you about my experience, do you think it would be best for me to apply to the cohort first, see if I get in, and then apply to the travel team summer academy, or maybe look into like the DC diplomacy academy and really just get my feet wet there and my skills polished there and not apply to the other one?
Why don't you submit an application, and then I'll write your name down so that I'll look at it real quick. If you can get in tonight or tomorrow, this weekend, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'll respond to you as quickly as possible with what I think the recommendation should be.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Hi, I was wondering if you could do the same for me because I'm a freshman too, and I don't really have much prior experience because my middle school hadn't offered Model UNs. I've been to a few collegiate level conferences this year, but that's my only experience prior to.
Okay. If that's just, I mean, without knowing all too much, Grace, I would say that doing the diplomacy and the crisis academy, those 2 weeks is probably going to be most beneficial for you. For younger students, that's typically what I recommend, but happy to look over an application and give you feedback. Again, the benefit is that I'm not like a college admissions counselor. This is like a one and done type thing. So we're gonna do, we're gonna make the recommendations that we think are best for you.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Stephanie is asking me about the pods for this year. We're going to upload them this week. Apologies for not getting them done. We had a couple of date changes on conferences last minute before this presentation, but when we email everyone the recording of this presentation, the slides, and we'll also attach all of the pods for this year. Have a question about the speaker series for the cohort. So the question is, what's the goal of the speaker series? Is it to show what Model UN can do? Are you able to share some of the names of the speakers? So the speaker series, there's 3 different types of speakers that we are going to be bringing in. One is going to be a knowledge-based speaker. So these are speakers with deep knowledge in public health, international diplomacy, and that's really just to give students more access to advanced education. The second type of speaker that we're bringing in is our alumni, and that is to showcase what Model UN can do in terms of setting you up for different career paths, different college majors, how to maximize your experience in college. And then the third type is more of a helping hand. So those are going to be the admissions instructors, the college counselors. How do you best position your Model UN experience on a college application? We know that that's a top priority for a lot of our students. So we want to give a few more resources to families to help them navigate those waters. So those are the 3 separate goals, the 3 types of speakers that we're going to be having this year. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer that. Yeah, Lauren, that's a great question. So is there any difference between the crisis academies in DC or Boston? They are exactly the same. So definitely do not do both. Pick which one makes more sense for you in terms of dates and location. The only academy that is different is the travel team academy, and that's going to be just much more advanced training. So if you've made it onto the travel team already, that's where we're going to try to propel you into a different level of competition. But for anybody who's new, I would definitely recommend the Diplomacy and Crisis Academies this year. And then we also do have some special rates to fill up the remaining seats in Boston. So if anybody's interested in any of those seats, please let me know, because we have a funding partner who's willing to give $1,000 scholarships to 10 students. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Okay, I will give one last chance for any questions. If not, I will thank everyone for their time. I know that it is late here on the East Coast, so I really appreciate you signing on after school, after work. Maybe you're still at work. We are always available for questions. This is such an individualized activity. Every student's so different. So if you ever have a question, feel free to reach out to Sarah or I. Sarah just shared my email in the chat. The 857 phone number, like I said, you can give that a call. You can text that if you have a quick question. Let us know how we can help. That's what we're here to do. Let us know if there's anything we can do to make this process easier. We're really excited to have another great year next year, and looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Frank. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good day.